Let's make sure that history never forgets the name Enterprise.
Greetings, nerds. This is Will Polk, producer and co-host of the Nerd Podcast with our host, Sarah Belmont. Thank you for joining me as I'm going to be talking about the series finale of Star Trek Picard. This episode was called The Last Generation, and it was written by and directed by Matalis. This is a spoiler review, so be sure, if you haven't watched the episode yet, drop off now, come back and watch me. If you have watched it, pull up a cup of Earl Grey tea, and I'm going to hit some of the points of the series finale and also share some updates regarding what's next in the Star Trek universe as far as what Terry Matalas has said about Star Trek Legacy. So with that being said, let's just jump into some of my overall thoughts of the finale. This truly was the culmination of this great crew and cast story. This season, really from episode 1 through 10, was consistently just a banger, and everything about it was really well done. I've said it multiple times on our prior reviews, either on our main show or on our special Star Trek Picard reviews that I've been doing here, that this has been a masterclass in how you take nostalgia, fan service, nerd porn, whatever you want to call it, and wrap up the story and a satisfying conclusion, because this crew, as we all know, the last time they were together as a unit on screen was Star Trek Nemesis, and I think it's pretty universally accepted that that really was not a proper send-off for this cast. So to have this opportunity for this cast to come back together and really close out this chapter in the Star Trek universe was very satisfying, and the reactions fans overall had this third season of Picard really was very fitting for this cast and to get a proper send off. So I really love the episode. Really been enjoying it this season. But I just want to hit some of the high points in this review. Of course, whenever we do start the review, we do get a nice call to tie in multiple generations of Trek. The crew of the Enterprise D jumps right into the action. We get that great scene from starts seasons 3 through 7 as far as the Next Generation. And then, of course, our crew racing to Sector 001 to stop the Borg from conquering the Earth and also toppling Starfleet. So one of the great things in this scene as far as pulling together generations, though, was we had the voice of Walter Koenig playing his son of a character that he portrayed in the original series of Pavel Chekhov. In this case, it was Anton Chekhov, who Anton was first name was a tribute to Anton Yelchin, who played Chekhov in the Kelvin universe movies that were produced by J.J. Abrams with that was started in 2009 Star Trek. So that was a very nice tribute, and also tie in the prior generations and the current generations together last time in this episode. And also had another callback to Star Trek 4, which was the president's message to Kirk and crew when they were racing back to Earth to stand trial, and then of course had to go back in time to get Wells. But we get a great scene of our crew that has been on the bridge, and we get we really get a lot here. We learn that they are, of course, captured. They discovered a Borg cube. They've discovered that Borg had put a transport conduit in the red spot on Jupiter. We of course, when we get a moments there with when they have one last team to go down to the Borg cube, and Jean-Luc, of course, points himself, and then Riker and Worf go with him. And I have to say, I really did. It was very heartfelt whenever they had that moment and that scene of them when Jean-Luc says his parting words to his crew. And it really, I have to say, they really sold that moment very well. That this could indeed be the last time that Geordi, Beverly, Troy, and Data see Jean-Luc, Worf, and Riker, because the way they set that scene up. And I mean, it was really, very, very. I got a lump in my throat even now this time about it, thinking about it, because it was so well done. Of course, whenever we do get them down onto the Borg cube, of course, we learn that Jack has been assimilated. Beverly leads Jean-Luc to the chamber right before where Jack was. We see the Borg Queen, and then, of course, we get that very heartfelt moment. And I think here's where I think the season really did work so well, especially when Jean-Luc goes in and makes the decision, as he's been talking about before, where he has been running from Locutus, and now he has decided, in order to save Jack, he's going to reassimilate. But I think why this works so well is because it was not only the themes of pulling together the 7 seasons and the films that the Next Generation cast had, the 4 films that they had, but also Jean-Luc's story in this series of legacy and family. And when you think about season 1 of Picard and how and basically how this whole series has been a deconstruction of Jean-Luc Picard as an individual. And so, of course, when we first start these series, we think that we're going to get Next Generation seasons 8, 9, and 10, but in fact, it is Star Trek Picard, and so whenever we have those series of events that transpire over the first 2 seasons, as far as Jean-Luc being basically alone, and Q calls him out on this whenever in season 2, as far as Jean-Luc has distanced himself from his cast mates, and he is, he's just basically sitting on that vineyard, basically to die alone. And then and then we had the stories and two was even, but the bigger thing as far as Jean-Luc's ability to love, and we learn why he wasn't able to love, especially whenever he kept shielding himself off from Laris, and probably also why he and when did finally get together, while their marriage fell apart, because he was always capable of fully giving himself. So we saw that deconstruction. So then when we finally do get this moment in season 3, and he has his found family, and not only his found family that the family that he fought with Starfleet. And I remember the episode where he was bragging to the cadets about how the crew is my family, and then Jack sitting in that bar, and then and then the realization years later, Jean-Luc realized that when he does learn that he does indeed have a biological son, and then he realizes that was Jack in the bar that day. And then we get to this moment on the Borg cube where he does reassimilate as Locutus, and he's clearly says, I have been running from this all my life, but now now that he has his found family and his new family, he's going to take this effort to save his son. And I think whenever you see all these things that happen in the prior 2 seasons, and the things that transpire over the course of this season, it makes total sense why John did what he did, as far as reassimilating and using his worst self, Locutus, his son Jack, and I think it was a very earned moment, and it was a very beautiful moment, and and whenever they're in that space there inside the green, whatever you want to call it, it was a very heartfelt moment when he puts his hand on Jack's heart, and they have that moment, and Jack pulls himself out of the Borg collective and saves himself. It was a truly earned moment, and a truly just that made complete sense for what transpired, and such a nice resolution to that. So of course, we had great moments in this episode as far as action. Beverly, kicking ass on the phasers and photon torpedoes. I mean, it's like I love the line. I learned a lot in the last 20 years. And of course, Data having to trust Geordi's gut, Data's gut, and we had, of course, the Return of the Jedi moment, zipping through the trenches and stuff, the Borg cube. All that was just really great, because it was all things about the Next Generation. It had humor, it had action, it had the great storytelling, and also the season really took chances and really fleshed these characters out, because of course it was well chronicled how Gene Roddenberry did not want to have conflict in the cast stuff, but it did, but then it set up a situation, archetype characters that really didn't, they had some growth, but I think this season these characters were even more three-dimensional than we probably saw a lot of times in the 7 years of the Next Generation. I know Riker definitely was definitely that case with that, and having that real conflict. So in between the characters, so it made the season just add another level of depth to the series. But again, we get those great moments, and then of course we do the nice little comment, with the handoff after everything takes place. Of course, Seven and the crew of the Titan, later Recreation Enterprise, G. We get this nice moment here in Riker with the starting off Stardate 1, and a nice little nod to how Captain Kirk changed it, where no man has gone before to where no one has gone before. These, all those little things like that were just nicely done, and nice touches, and nice little callback to their own version of the two starships, the Enterprise D, and handing off to his legacy to the next generation Titan. That was a nice moment. Another nice moment was seeing Seven and having to deal with the consequences of her actions, and how Shaw had recommended her for a command before they left space dock, and everything that transpired there. So that was another great moment as far as when we had our mini Return of the King endings in this finale. But Shaw is another character that really was just phenomenal this season. Todd Stashwood was, as far as supporting cast and new cast member, definitely was one of the MVPs of this series this year, and this definitely this season, and also as far as new characters that were introduced in Star Trek Picard, him and Jurati definitely. And even and Rafi, all three of them really were standout performers and great arcs. Of course, Rafi and Worf, their closeout as far as their moments there. As far as Worf being an honorable leaker, that was a great moment. But also the thing that of course we had Data and having his counseling session with Troy, which I learned from Terry Metalis, I think, on the Ready Room. I think Brett Spiner, suggested those scenes. Everything about it. It was just all those little endings at the end of the episode were just really nice moments that really gave everybody, just like how each episode, as each character was reintroduced this season, had their moments to shine. In the finale, in the final episode, everybody had their moments to shine as well, which I think was just so wonderful. And I think that's why this season worked so well, because everything about it was organic. Nothing was forced. And so it was, and that, again, bled through, it was a through line throughout the series, where it had everybody show up in the first episode, and there's nowhere to go from there. And so, again, I think that the way that the season progressed and the way things did was very, very beautiful. And then, speaking of beautiful, we had the recreation of the moment from All Good Things with the cast and the crew playing poker, and love the story that Terry Matalas talked about as well, how he just basically set the camera up and they just let the cast go. And for 45 minutes when they were doing this take, and it was just, the true friendship and bond between the cast, not only as far as in universe, as far as the crew of the Enterprise D, but also in real life with the cast. I mean, it's very well chronicled how tight the Next Generation cast is, as far as being very close off screen. All those things were great. And then, of course, the finale, this final scene with Q. I know originally, and I know on our main show, I was like, I wish they had like switched the order of maybe having Q come first instead of it ended on the poker thing. And I overall, I think I still feel that way, but now that I've had a few days to think about it, I'm okay with the way they ended it too. Just, with given that the trial never ends, and I think about think back to All Good Things and how Q leaned into Jean-Luc and was going to whisper into his ears, and he pulled back and said, "You'll find out." And we did find out. And I really think that the 3 seasons that we just to enjoy with Star Trek Picard was what Q was going to probably tell Jean-Luc, and probably some other things as well. But yeah, like I said, I really, really did enjoy the series. Definitely, it's going to be part of my Star Trek rewatch. It's very rewatchable every time I rewatch episodes, and I'm sure as you've rewatched episodes, you probably found new things. But before I close out, though, we did get some updates from, of course, Terry Matalas has been, and others in fandom have really been pushing the idea of Star Trek Legacy, and there's a hashtag. There's been a petition set up, but just got some new news today from TrekMovie.com, and this is a great website. If you haven't gone there, go check it out. They have a lot of great information about all things Star Trek, and especially they have published an article today that's a sort of pulled together various articles from various sources over the last week since the finale. And one of the things that Terry Matalas, the headline says, gives a Star Trek Legacy update. Alex Kurtzman, who hears fans loud and clear. So for folks who are not familiar who Alex Kurtzman is, he is the new Gene Roddenberry or Rick Berman, Branna Braga. He is the executive producer over all things Star Trek. So all the things that we have here in New Trek, Alex Kurtzman and his Hidden Sector studio is the behind all things Trek. But a couple things, of course, Terry has been very bullish on Star Trek Legacy, and even though it's not up to him as far as whether or not a new series will get greenlit, he did make it clear. He has made it very clear that as of right now, there is no current development work happening on Star Trek Legacy. But if it were to happen, he notes that clearly there's two shows. He notes with Sci-Fi FXX magazine that shows are expensive to make. They currently have two shows with Strange New Worlds and Starfleet Academy, which was just recently announced beginning production next year. And he thinks Paramount would have to financially justify a third one. I think the way they look at it is that they're well stocked, so less fans can convince them otherwise. There's certainly certainly the point of view at the moment. So right now, doesn't look like anything's going to happen. But he did again, reference a couple more things with Cinema Blend as far as the new Phase 2 programming that Paramount Plus is planning on rolling out. Of course, with Section 31 being one of the projects, and then also every 2 years, they'll have things coming after that. So of course, he again just reiterates nothing's still in development, but there's things in the pipeline. So we're still, as fans, we're still going to get a lot more Star Trek. But then Alex Kurtzman said that he told Variety, which is one of the trade publications, that Metalis and he told Variety, that it's something that's going to be done. We want to make sure we don't rush into it. So again, definitely a situation where Star Trek Legacy could happen, but they want to take their time. And then Alex Kurtzman made it very clear that the door to Star Trek Legacy is open by telling Fox LA, quote, anything is possible. We've heard the fans loud and clear. There's obviously more story to tell, so we'll see. So again, if there is a Star Trek Legacy, it would pick up right after the Picard finale. Vitalis made that very clear to Collider, and he thinks the idea of 7, Jack Crusher, Rafia's novel number 1, the LaFour sister, Esmar and Mura, and he would love to see the crew of the Enterprise out there as the next generation, and mixed in with some of the legacy characters as well. So even though we may not have the 7 all together again, it looks like there is a possibility of the some of the legacy characters if the Star Trek Legacy show was, or maybe movie of the week, if or one of the features that Paramount Plus is thinking about doing. If they don't do it as a series, maybe they'll do it as one of those 2 streaming movies that they've talked about in the next phase on the streaming platform. That could be a possibility for it as well. So as we see, we would also note that if they were able to do a legacy show, they would probably try to sprinkle in some characters from DS9 and Voyager, other things from the next generation time period. So there's definitely some things that are out there that could potentially happen, but it's up to us as fans. And we really did get an amazing run with this series this year, and of course we got the beautiful moment of the Titan being rechristened as the Enterprise G, which is a nod to the legacy of the name Enterprise, and of course we got further adventures, and so we still have to figure out what 7 says as far as their command and whenever they make things go. So would love to hear your thoughts on what you think she might use as her thing as far as whenever she tells the crew to carry out her orders. But I've enjoyed talking about this series. I do plan on probably doing some more special reviews of future shows coming up, as far as we do have Strange New Worlds coming up on June 15. Of course, later this year we'll have Lower Decks, and then Prodigy coming up. Of course, we got the great news about Section 31 show with Michelle Yeoh, and other future projects that will be in Starfleet Academy. So So fans, we're in a golden age of new Trek, and I thank you for watching our reviews and listening to our main show with my host Sarah Belmont, and whenever we've given our weekly reviews on Picard as well. And if you like other things, we cover a lot of things in geekdom. So be sure to subscribe to our channel here on YouTube or follow us wherever you get your podcast. You can do that by going to www.scenernerdpodcast.com. And with that, please leave a like, leave a comment. Love to hear from you. Live long and prosper. And I will see you in June when we start up with Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Live long and prosper.
I fold. I'm up. I'm up.
I fold, okay?
Oh,
seriously?
With 2 cards?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Oh, really? Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
He's on a
I'll call you. That's for you.
Let me see.
Here we go. Oh. Hope you're feeling lucky, Jean-Luc.
Well, I've come to believe that the stars have always been in my favor.
Well done, sir.
Excuse me. I'll take 2.
I think we know who's paying.
All right, let's play Rise of 6 Colors.
Whatever that is.
All right, here we go.